Starting soon, TM. Okay. I'm running a little behind, so sorry about that. Got a little pet here to join me today. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Bearded Printer's channel, where we do the things and accomplish the stuff. Yeah, the timer ran out, and it just said starting soon afterward. It's kind of embarrassing. Yeah, so welcome in, everyone. Welcome in, Jedi Spidey, AWZ, Peekaboo, Tech Jeeper, good evening. I've got a nice little friend here. This is Built Over Bot's Raccoon, scaled up at 510%. You know, it's a big print. Though after printing a dummy 13 at 1,300%, everything else kind of looks small in comparison. You know, you look at this and you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of cute. You know, it's still smaller than an actual raccoon. But this thing is massive. So, he's my shoulder buddy for now. Hope you don't hear that too much in the mic here. He's eating the microphone. I can put it on my other shoulder. There you go. What printer size did you use for that? I used my H2D, so I scaled it up to be able to barely fit on my H2D. If you print it on an H2S, you can actually print it bigger, because the H2D with the dual nozzles, one nozzle can't go all the way to the end of the plate on one side. So, yeah. If it were all one color, I would have a little bit more space, but because it was multicolor and one nozzle was using multiple colors, I couldn't use all of it, all that I wanted to. So this is at 510% scale. It took like a day and a half to print. I can't remember. It was almost 2 days to print. So yeah, kind of neat. All right, a few other things I wanted to show. So I've been testing out my resin printers recently, and I have a few different resins. I have one that's like a tough resin that's kind of translucent green. I have a purple ABS-like resin, and I've got like a standard resin. And I just got onto My Mini Factory, and I just found a free model of Toothless, and I thought I would print that in the ABS like stuff, and here it is. I gotta block my own face. I feel like that turned out pretty good. So I printed it on it's an Anycubic M7. Not the Pro version, just the regular version. Turned out great. So, yay. Cool. Alright, so what does it mean to be parametric? Like, the first time I heard that word, I was like, what is parametric? Like, it sounds smart, right? Tech Deeper, everything is bigger in my world. That's 100% true. Including my little friend here. I originally wanted to print him in PETG, but the black and dark gray PETG has been out of stock at Bamboo's site for months now. So I just decided to bite the bullet and just print it in PLA. Alright. Parametric is an English ambulance driver. Exactly, right. That's exactly it. Parametric is variations on demand, right? Piled, that's right. Okay, so let's show an example of what it would mean to be parametric, and I'm just gonna do just an example. Oh, I don't even have my Stream Deck up. I feel silly. I use my iPad for my Stream Deck. This cute guy's gonna just be over here for the stream. You'll be able to just see his back there. Let me grab my Stream Deck app. Okay. Are you going to connect? This one. There we go. Is it gonna work? Nope. Let's try that again. This is not working. I don't want that. Whoops. I'm gonna pull it up here. Thanks. Connection lost. Imagine that. I want this one. This device here. This is the first time I've had issues with this. And of course I'm live while I'm doing it. What is happening? Oh my gosh. I guess I don't have a Stream Deck this time. Let's close the app. Let's close everything here. Let's just close everything. Do I have... I'm gonna have to do this off stream because I think I probably have to like clear... Why do you keep popping up over there? Probably have to like clear cache or something. Yeah, I don't have a Stream Deck today. Figures, the first time I ever have an issue with Stream Deck connecting, it's while I'm live. So, I guess I don't have a Stream Deck. I'm going to do everything manually in OBS. Cool. Alright, primary monitor, let's go. Hey Barking Cauldron, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Hey Jay Palmer. Okay, so we are going to delve into what it means to be parametric. So first, we're going to be dealing a lot with parameters here. The humanity. So I'm just going to create parameters, and let's just create just a default grid, almost kind of like Gridfinity, but I'm not going to use the same measurements as Gridfinity. I'm just going to keep things a nice round number. Hey Clown Hammer, welcome in. So let's just create our grid. So let's just say for our X count, let's do 3. And then for our Y count, we'll also do 3. For our X width, we'll do 50. And then, oh, I don't know if X width is what we want. So let's just do X size. Y size, also 50. And then let's put, I don't know, we want a Z axis, right? We want a third axis. So let's just do Z count. And that's just going to be 1. And then Z size is, let's just keep that at 50 as well. Okay. And now let's put clearance, let's just say spacing between everything. We'll just say it's 10. Okay, let's just put some of that in to begin with. Okay. Parameters during parametric work. Wow, imagine that. You're here to learn, bearded professor. Okay, there are better resources to go to learn. By the way, just so you know, I'm doing things on the fly and I still struggle here and there. But I like to share what I know. Okay, so let's start off with just a sketch. I'm gonna, oh, and by the way, one thing you can do, I'm not in a sketch now. If I hit R for rectangle, it's gonna ask me to choose a plane. I'm gonna choose the bottom one. Boom, I'm in a sketch and it already has a rectangle feature ready. So I'm gonna do the middle. There we go. There's a rectangle. Now, I'm going to choose my width. I'm going to say X count times X size. Whoops. One thing I forgot to do. When you're making parameters, notice this says millimeters. for these count ones, I want them to be no units. And notice that it tries to cast. In programming terms, casting is basically converting a unit of measurement to a different unit of measurement. That's putting it simply. So I don't want millimeters. Okay, so it's just one. Okay, so now I can do x count times x size. Boom, it lets me do that. And we'll do the same thing over here. Y count times y size. Perfect. Now it's 150 by 150. Now we're gonna make some changes, but this is just an example. Hey Pezliz, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Hey Ash Prince. I do great stuff. Well, I appreciate the compliment. I do stuff that I find satisfactory sometimes, sometimes not. So let's just do that. Okay. Now, this is one way to do it, but what if, let's do this instead. So this makes it so we're doing the x size times 3. If I go into my parameters here and I say x count is 4, you'll see this is now at 200, right? And I could easily just make lines here, and I'm going to hit D for dimension and put a dimension right here, and this is just going to be x size. There. And then I could do a pattern. So using this line, I want to go in this direction. Okay. And for the quantity, I want to do x count minus 1 because we already did this first one. Okay. Let's do spacing. And then for the distance, I want x size. There. So now it's evenly distributed. And let's do the same thing for the y. Okay, we do D for dimension to set these to the y size. And then we could, or instead of doing that, let's do this. Undo. I'm going to grab this one. Instead of doing a line here, let's grab this one. And then we will do a rectangular pattern this way. And for the quantity, now I could do y count, and I don't have to do minus 1 because we don't already have one in there. And then for the distance, negative y size. Boom. So now we have our grid. So now I'm going to try to bring this to the side so we can see better. Let's make this smaller. Okay. So now I can go in here and say, I want this to be 5 actually. Boom. Now you have a grid of 5. It's evenly distributed. Let's make this 7. Okay, so now we have a grid of 7 down and 5 across. So that's good. But what about the spacing? Like if we wanted this to be somewhat like grid affinity, we're going to have to want walls right here, like for the base. And maybe we do want just one wall all the way around, that's fine. But if we want like little dividers in here, so we have a little cubby that's like this and then one that's like this, we're gonna need some spacing. Okay. I'm just gonna delete this sketch. Now let's just do 1 unit and see how that goes. So if I'm gonna hit R for rectangle, click on that, bring up my rectangle thing, and instead of doing my grid right there, I'm going to just say Y size, and I'm going to hit tab for the next one and then do X size. Okay. Now, we know that we want spacing on each side, right? So let's add our spacing to this, or we could just go into our parameters and add our spacing there. So then we could say, I don't know, I already said X size and Y size, so why don't we just say X full size. And then we can just say X size plus spacing, but the spacing, there's something that we ought to think about. I'm going to bring up Paint to kind of show what I mean. Okay, so let's get our rectangle out. Okay, so let's say we have a rectangle here. Let's kind of try to evenly space them out. Okay, and now we have, whoops, here we go. Okay, so consider this. Now our spacing will want to be between these two. We want this spacing right here to be the same. I'm gonna grab this so it's not so awkward to draw. So this spacing right here, I want this. Okay, so this spacing right here, we want to be the same as this spacing right here. Obviously, this doesn't look right. I'm bad at drawing, but you get the idea. If I have one unit, say the X full size is this plus this, then we're getting this. And then if we do a pattern, then we will get to here and then to here. And then we don't have this. We would want this at the end there. So I would rather consider it taking this, or from here to here, instead of from here to here. So I would take spacing equals 1, but considering that one space is half between this box and this box. That's what's going on in my head at the moment. Hey, Numeric, welcome in. Troy, aka Eric, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. So that's kind of what I'm considering here. So before I just start doing stuff, I'm really picturing in my mind where I'm drawing my lines with whatever I'm doing. Tensile, welcome in. Okay, so the full size, I will keep this the same spacing, but knowing where I want things to go, I need to remember that. Okay, and then same with Y. Y full size is Y size plus spacing. Okay, now you could easily do those in here. I could say X size plus spacing, but then if there are any other places I need to consider the spacing, I then have to do this over and over again. And so I don't have to, I just created a parameter that has both of those values in there. So instead of doing that, X full size, and then Y full size. Okay. Now, before saving this, because I know I want to do an extrude. Hey, Cruising Girl, welcome in. Because I want to do an extrude, I can just hit E, and because E is a hotkey for extrude outside of my sketch, it'll finish the sketch for me and directly go into my extrude feature. And because I only have one profile to select from with my sketch, it automatically has it selected for me. So now I could do Z size. Okay. All right. And now I want this to be empty inside. So I can use this shell feature. Click the top here, and let's do spacing. Now remember what I said, how we want spacing to be half on each side. So I'm going to do divided by 2. Okay. And now I could use this rectangular pattern on this and use this origin x-axis as my my axis over here. Okay, so now I can pull this way and I can pull this way if I want. But what if I want it all in the middle? I don't want it to come out to the side. I want it in the middle. So over here, instead of one direction, I'm going to choose symmetric. And then over here, instead of one direction, I'm going to choose symmetric. Now you'll notice that it suddenly became really spaced out. That's because I have extent chosen. If I chose spacing, it would have had a different outcome. I'm going to hit escape to undo that. I'm going to start over. Okay, I'm going to change this to extent and kind of do the same example, where I go this way, and then I want to change this to symmetric. Oh, it still says extent. Okay. All right, change this to spacing. I'm going to change this to symmetric. And look, the spacing stayed the same after changing to symmetric. Okay. Now, for the distance, let's do X full size. Okay. And you can see, because I chose half on each side, this is the spacing that I wanted between them. And we'll do the same thing here. Y full size. Okay, so there's our grid there of boxes. Now, if I want to go in here to my parameters, oh wait, we set it to 5 and 7, but I don't want a 3 by 3. Okay, let's go back into our, I just double clicked on my feature right here with our pattern, and for quantity, I'm going to change this to I think this is the x-axis, x count, okay, and this to y count. Boom. So now I can go in here, change this to 3 if I want, change this to 7 if I want. Cool. Now, how do I get them all together? I mean, look at all these bodies here. We have a ton of bodies. And what if I wanted one object? Is there a hotkey? So Peekaboo asks, is there a hotkey to create a sketch other than the S key? So the S key will bring up your shortcuts. And you can see I don't have a lot of shortcuts assigned here. I almost never use this. What I actually do is if you, similar to how I finished the sketch by hitting E, it finished it and then went into the extrude. You can do the same thing for sketches. If you use a hotkey that is explicitly used in sketches, then it'll assume you want to do something in a sketch. And if you are not already in a sketch, it'll ask, what plane do you want to start a sketch on? So, I'm gonna hide all these. So if I hit P for project, that's only done in sketches. So then it asks me what plane I want to do a sketch on. I select this one, and it already has project enabled for me. So it then wants me to select features or select something to project. So I can hit OK, and there, I already have a sketch with a projection. The same thing with rectangles. If I'm not in a sketch and I hit R for rectangle, it assumes I want to be in a sketch. So I'll just select a plane. The rectangle, whoops, I double clicked. R for rectangle, click this. The rectangle feature is enabled and I can now make a rectangle. I'm in a sketch. So if you look at, so you can actually see, so L for line. I haven't tried line yet, so let's see what line does. L. There we go. So that's just a very fast way to get into a sketch without having to take your mouse up here to click on sketch. You can see. So if you want to know what a what a hotkey is, it's usually right here next to it. So I hover over rectangle, there's an R next to it, so I know I could use rectangle. I know I could use C for circle. I'm not seeing any other hotkeys right here. But then you have D for dimension, you know, stuff like that. Piled 3D. Let's see, you say you created the same parametric model in Fusion, but created it by extruding the full height of the model except the... Yeah. So, yes. And that's probably in reference to these bodies, right? How I wanted it to be one body, right? So, in some cases, instead of creating one box and then doing a pattern, you would do one big box, right? Using those parameters that we've created. Let me read the rest of your comment here. Then pattern the 4 faces that allowed the outer border and inner X and Y gaps to all be different. It was, yeah. To swap between different shapes being patterned, and for a faster interface to change all parameters was the motivation to, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And for those who aren't familiar with like how things are being modeled and various nuances with the math of creating things, it can be pretty overwhelming. And so Piled is making a software to be able to easily create 3D models. I haven't had a chance to try out Piled, but I'm curious how it'll work. A key is a key in the oven, right? Math is for nerds. That's right, Built Over Bot. So one thing that we can do, I'm curious if this will even work. I'm gonna try something real quick. So let's project these corners. Okay, make a rectangle. I only needed 2 of those corners. Let's go up here, new body, intersect this with these. Okay, that worked. Okay, I was curious if that would work or not. Okay. A hotkey is a key in the oven. Oh, I see. All right. Okay, so now we have all these separate boxes that we may want to combine so it's all one object, right? But we want to do it parametrically. So if, for example, oh, I'm still in a sketch here. What is this sketch? Okay. So, for example, if I wanted to just do a combine. Let's just do a combine. I'm going to grab body number 1 for best practice, and then I can just combine them. Well, now look what happens when I go here. I'm going to change this to 5. Uh-oh. We've got a warning with our combine. We are missing references. It doesn't like that because some of the boxes we used in that combine are now missing. That would actually be a good idea, Built Over Bot. I'd be willing to try that out. So I would first need to... I haven't downloaded Piled 3D yet, but I'd be curious how it behaves and how user-friendly it is. Though you should know, a lot of times I'll just try a software out and kind of meddle around with it before I even look up tutorials and stuff, just to see how user-friendly it is. So be prepared that I might be frustrated with some of the things because I don't listen to instructions. Okay, so back to what I was saying here. What we could do is, instead of doing one box, so you should know there are many ways to do something in CAD. So one thing we could do is, instead of doing one box and doing the pattern, we could do a large box, and then we can do a pattern cutting into this. Or something that would be a little bit more complicated is I could just make a box that encompasses all this and then do a combine. So this is what that would look like. Which this way kind of seems silly, but I'll do it anyways. Okay, so I'm gonna do another box, but to ensure that the box is always bigger than this, I'm going to use our parameters. So the x full count, full size times x count. Did I do that right? X full size times x count. I'm in the... I feel like I did this wrong. See, that's right. X full size times x count. Oh, x count is 7. Oh! That's because... Where'd you go? Okay, I'm gonna undo. Okay, all these are invisible now. I feel like this is being weird. I don't know why those were invisible, or why they weren't showing up, but there we go. Let's go back into our sketch. Okay. Okay, x count times x full size. Y count times y full size. Okay, so now I know it'll always be bigger, but I want the edge to be the thickness between these. So that's not going to be the case here, but just keep that in mind. So I can do that, and I can extrude to the top here, new body, and then I can do a combine, intersect with, oh, that's still going to give us issues. So now it's one thing, but again, if I go here, choose 5, again, it's going to yell at me. Whoops. It's going to yell at me saying lost references, more info, tool body error, 6 reference failures. It's showing me where those reference failures are. It's saying I should see these in our combine, but they're not there anymore. Oh, well, let's not do that then. Okay. So, instead of doing our individual extrude, I'm going to delete all this. I'm going to change this back to 7, and I'm going to go back into our sketch. Okay, so now we're going to do what we were planning on doing before, which is our x count times x full size. Okay. And then y count times y full size. Now remember, we want that extra space on each end, right? But we have, on this end, we have half a space, and on this end, we'll have half a space that we need. So, because full size already has space calculated, we're going to keep that isolated in parentheses, and then we'll just add a space. Okay, y count times y full size plus spacing. Okay, all right, so now let's extrude that to the z size. Cool. And now I'm gonna do another what's it called, another sketch on top here. Let's do a project. Now, I'm going to just create a random rectangle right here, and I want this to be the X size, not the full size, because we want it without the spacing. Y size. And I want the distance here to be spacing. And I want the distance here to be spacing. Cool. Now I'm only going to extrude this one, and then I'm going to use a pattern to duplicate that extrude. That way I don't have another reference error, because if I choose to have a pattern in the sketch, and I'll show you what I mean, I can have a pattern in the sketch here. I have to use the parameters to really convey what I mean. So let's do X count. Oh yeah, minus, let's see, X size plus, minus spacing. Okay, and then this will be Y count, and this will be Y size plus spacing. Okay. All right. So now we have that, and if I go and extrude all these down, I don't know, -40. Let's just do that. Oh, not 490. Let's just do that. Okay, now I go here and change my X count to 5. Okay, now it works, but look what's happening when I edit this. Oh, it's not showing what I thought it would. So what I thought it would do is I thought this extrude would show me another reference error saying that, hey, there are like 6 more profiles or 5 or 3 more profiles that were selected that are no longer selected, and it would give an error. But it looks like it's not giving an error, so maybe Fusion got smart this time. Hey Diablo Spawn, welcome in. Okay, so yeah, I guess you could do that, but I feel like that's kind of messy because you could have issues later on. I don't trust it. If I had things selected before and I change a parameter and those things no longer can be selected, it makes me sad inside. So instead of doing that pattern, I'm gonna keep 1. And let's just do -z count plus, whoops, -z size plus spacing. Okay. And now I can do a pattern, a rectangular pattern of this feature. Now, by default, it wants me to just select the object. It's not letting me do a pattern off of this. So over here, for the rectangular pattern, you can change this to features. Select, I'm at the bottom left here underneath my face. I'm going to select this, or you can hover over this and it'll let you select that. But just so you know, sometimes if you have a lot going on with an object, it's hard to tell what exactly you're selecting when you're trying to choose a feature. So I like to come down here to the timeline and select it. Okay. All right. Oh, thanks for the follow, Josh Edwin. Okay, so we're going to do the same pattern, but we're going to be patterning the feature instead of the sketch. So the quantity for axis 1, which I believe is the x-axis, x count, and the spacing, I'm going to put a negative here and put in parentheses because the original number is a negative because it saw that I was going backwards. So I'll just do negative, and in the parentheses, that's where I'll put the x size, or x, I want to do x full size, I think. Yeah. Okay, and then same with this one, we're going to do y count, and then negative y full size. Boom. Okay. Yeah, unless it's a very simple grid. If it's a model that you're just gonna do a quick one and done, and you don't plan on modifying it a bunch, this is kind of a little overkill. But if you want, the reason why I'm bringing this up, I forgot to address this at the very beginning. So I'm gonna pull this over. In Maker World, there's a parametric model maker that supports Fusion that I think is fascinating. And the reason why I'm going through this is because I want to be able to upload, that's not the right one, that's just me, to be able to upload a Fusion file, and then anyone can go in here and see all of these are parametric models where you can change the diameter of your broom, you can change the diameter here, you can change how wide this box is, how tall it is, how many compartments. You can change a lot of things. There are different sizes of these towers here. So when you want to upload a Fusion file in Maker World and have something truly parametric, so people can just go to your file here and say, I want one that's of this grid, and have it automatically generate it for you, that is powerful. So what I'm doing in Fusion, yeah, this is kind of ridiculous, but if you want to do something parametric where people can truly customize what they want with what they have by just modifying some of these parameters, that is powerful. I don't know if it allows step export. I believe it'll just give us an STL. I haven't tested it myself. But if you want to go into just Google Maker World, what's it called? Just Google parametric model maker, and it'll kind of give you some things that are trending that you can look at. You can try downloading and see what files it'll give you. But I just feel like it's very powerful. And so what I wanted to do, and the reason why I'm bringing up this, is I wanted to make this parametric. Now, I have been using, I've been using parameters and whatnot with this, but it's not that parametric. It's a lot of it is like hard coded or hard, like are just set without any customization. And so I've been actually messing with that here with my custom driver case. Now, the original drivers I used are these LDO drivers that I have here. And let's I wish I had my maker deck to make this easier. So I have these drivers, and that's what the original was based off of. But what if someone had a driver where the handle was slightly longer or slightly fatter, or maybe this was shorter or longer? How awesome would it be for them to just create their own case on the fly and download it? So I've been messing with a few things here, and I'll demo a little thing just to kind of show you what I mean. But here, things have been getting a little complicated. Let's stretch this out a bit. Okay, so you see I have a lot of parameters here. I have lots. Okay, so one of the parameters for driver count, so I have two different driver sizes. I have big drivers and little drivers. And I just made it by default that one size of drivers goes on one side and one size of drivers goes on the other. You could easily make it so both sets of drivers are the exact same size. If you have 6 drivers that are the exact same size, you could say handle 1 length is 88. Let's change handle 2 length to be 88. Let's see, where are you? Handle 2 length, 88. There we go. Let's change this to 3. Okay, So it's a little buggy. I've been messing with it, but it's something that I've been working towards. So if I wanted just 3 on each side, there we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If I wanted just 2 on one side, there we go. We got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If the driver shaft length is 100 for the driver 1, well then it gets longer for the driver type 1. I have to undo that. And if I wanted the, let's go 87 for the shaft 2 length. See, those get longer, but so I'm trying to make it so it's very parametric, but there are a few bugs that I need to work out. One issue I had, or that I still have, is I don't have any, so you can put if statements for the expression here, but I haven't done that yet. It doesn't know which side has more. So I have math in there to determine the width, but if this one has 4 and this one has 3, it messes it up. So if I change this to 3 and then change this to 4, it's a little messed up. So it does work. It does put 4 on this side and 3 on this side, but I want these 3 to be centered. So I need to put a conditional to determine which one has more. If this one has more, then obviously it's not going to be any wider. These are just going to be placed in the center, etc. So one other thing that I did that I thought was interesting is to determine the width here. So for example, let's change this back to 3. So if you look here, this driver is right here, and it's a certain amount, a certain distance over here. But if it's an odd number, the position of this driver moves further down so that this one is centered. What just happened? Nice tool. Thanks. Thanks, Zombie Hedgehog. I appreciate that. Okay. I feel like my chats aren't syncing very well here. But thanks again for the sub, for the resub, Zombie Hedgehog. I appreciate it. Okay. So I had to do something interesting to be able to do that, because, again, I don't have a conditional in there. I don't have a conditional saying, if the number is odd, do this, otherwise do this. And we got a hype train. That's awesome. Okay, this multi-chat thing is just not working. Thanks for the bits, Pezliz. 100 bits from Pezliz. And she started us off on a hype train. That's awesome. Yeah, so I don't have a conditional saying if this, then that. So what I did is I added this multiplier. Does anyone know what this is? It's kind of hard to see on a smaller screen. Oh, thanks for the gigantified creature, Pezliz. This is a modulus. So I use the absolute value. So I subtract the not the diameter, but the driver count. So I take the absolute value of the driver count 1 minus driver count 2. That ensures that it's not a negative number, so that gives me the difference. And if that happens to be not divisible by 2, that means they're opposite. So what this does is it divides it by 2, and then whatever remainder is there is the number that pops out. Thanks for the bits, Additive Adam. 100 bits. That's awesome. So I use this as a multiplier. obviously, if it's divisible by 2, it'll return 0. If it's divisible, and if it's not divisible by 2, it'll return 1. That's just because if it's not divisible by 2, like, how many numbers can you fit in 2? 1 and 2, right? 3 more. Oh, we got more bits from Pezlis. 3, then 2, then 1. So I kind of used this trick where I just took the difference, divided it by 2, and if there's a remainder, then it's an odd number. If there isn't, it is an even number. So this will either equal 0 or 1. And what I did was I just multiplied this. I used multiplier. And so for the width, I would just say this times my multiplier. And if the multiplier is 1, then it would add that amount that I wanted. If it was 0, then it wouldn't. And so that's how I determined how to do this Boolean without an if statement. Now, I was trying to do this without using an if statement, but you can see it's buggy. So I need to go back in here and adjust some of these formulas to use Booleans so that I could determine. So it's not enough to know whether or not this is an odd number, like 4 versus 3. I need to know which side has more. So, and we're getting more bits. Pezlis with more bits. Sharon Barking Cauldron with 100 more bits. Thank you so much. You guys are fantastic. I really appreciate it. I really wish I had my Stream Deck. I feel paralyzed without it. But I really like this. 15 more bits from Additive Adam. Oh my gosh. We're right on our way to level 2 hype train. This material I used to print this is 3D Fuel's PCTG. It actually printed very easily. And Pezlis with the 1 bit and the 4 bits, and she's donating all the bits. I really like the PCTG. And the cool thing about 3D Fuel is they actually provide profiles so that your printer can easily print this. PCTG is not very common, so not a lot of people are going to have profiles on how to print it. They all have profiles for PETG, but not PCTG. So you go to 3D Fuel's website, and they actually have the profiles there for your printer. And not just if you have a Bamboo or a Creality or a Prusa. They have individual printers too. They have the X1 Carbon and they have the H2D, and they're currently working on the H2S. So chances are they'll have a profile for your printer that you could use. But one thing I noticed, and we got an anonymous gifter gifted a sub to K2 Kevin. Look at that. So one thing I noticed about PCTG, not only did it print really cleanly, but I feel like it rides along the rails really smooth. So even though this is printed in PLA, I have one of these printed in PLA as well, and it just doesn't slide as smooth. So I really like PCTG for that. It's really smooth. Again, thanks for the hype train, everyone. Y'all are awesome. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's go back to what we were doing. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to do. Is I need to figure out which side is the different number. It helps me to know if one side has more than the other, but I need to know which side has more than the other so that I could properly fix the bugginess of it. Because again, I can make this side have more, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, it starts in this corner instead of in the middle. That's kind of annoying. So I'm gonna come back here, roll my timeline back here. Excuse me. Okay, you can look at this formula. Look how fun this is. Okay. Oh, 1 second. I don't know what got in my throat. That was interesting. Okay. Bearded, then printer, else pumpkin. That's right, realizes. Welcome in, by the way. So this driver 2 end space, let's look at our parameters. Driver, where's my driver 2 end space? Right here. So I have my diameter, it's explicitly handle 2, so it's the smaller handle, minus the driver clearance. Okay, so this is how I figured this out. I get paint up, and why did you do so small? Okay, let's just delete all this. Okay. Okay, so let's say I had these represent the larger diameter, or handle 1. Okay, so it's probably about this much apart. Let's just do that. Okay, and let's choose blue for the other one. Okay. All right, so this is where it's going to be. Oh, I gotta do this. Nope. Let's just do this. Okay, put this over here. Okay, so what I did is, in this instance, so these black circles represent, oh boy. The black circles represent these drivers, the blue circles represent these drivers, right? And so I basically just used lines and determined, well, this space, and let's use black, so the space between these, why does that not work? Not use clone stamp because I'm not trying, oh. Silly. Okay, I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so the distance here and here, I named clearance. So the clearance is a certain amount on both sides. Okay, so the distance between these two I know. And the distance here, I know. So I just take this minus this, and that gives me, whoops, this is a struggle, and that gives me this area here. But I only want one of those, so I divide that by 2. So in my parameters here for my end space, the handle 2 diameter minus the driver clearance, and I divide that by 2. And then I want another driver clearance at the end, which is, yeah. Anyway, so that's how I determined how wide, or the driver 2 end space to be. I don't think this is going to work right now. I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to focus on this formula here. And basically what I did is handle 1 diameter, that's the bigger one at the moment. It doesn't have to be bigger, but that's the one I'm using, times the driver count, so how many across. So that gives me the total space with, if I put all 3 drivers right up against each other, that gives me that distance. And now I need to know the spacing. Now I did width spacing, so this is the width from here to here that I determined, and I want a space on each side. So I do 2 times that width spacing, so now we have all 3 drivers side by side with no space between them, and then those 2 spacing. Now we need the clearance between the drivers. So driver count minus 1, so we have 3 drivers, there's 2 spaces that would be between those 2 drivers. So if it's 3, it would be 3 minus 1 is 2. If there were 4 drivers, then I have 3 spaces overall between all the drivers, etc. So it's always the driver count minus 1. And then I'd multiply that count by my clearance. So that gives me that space. Now, that doesn't compensate for the other side. So the other side of the driver, in our case, if we have 3 or 4, that determines how wide this should be. So that's what I need to determine. So what I'm doing here is I always want it to be at least the driver to end space distance, but if the difference between the two happens to be an odd number, then I want to add an extra. But this is flawed reasoning, because what if the driver 2 side has the 3 and the driver 1 side has the 4? It'll still be a difference of 1, which means I need to position things differently, which means this will still be multiplied, but I don't want that. So what I can do is put in an if statement. If, let's see, driver count diff. Can I put this in here? Nope, this is the name. Let's call it, I don't know, driver 1 has more. And then I think I don't want this to be a unit, so no measurement. If, look at that. See this if function here? Neat! So, if, let's say driver 1 count is greater than driver 2 count. I can't remember if it's a comma or a semicolon. We'll figure that out in a second. 1, otherwise 0. I think it's a semicolon. Yeah, it's a semicolon. Okay. So this kind of serves as a Boolean. I don't know if this is exactly what I want to do, but this kind of serves as a Boolean. Where if driver 1 has more, then this will be 1. So let's test that out. I'm going to set driver 1 to 4 and driver 2 to 3. Scroll down. Now this equals 1. Now we can use this as a multiplier if we want. Yeah. There are a few other bugs that I'm thinking of that I haven't shown you guys yet. Let's just jump to the end here so we can see what happens. So we have that, 4 and 3. What happens if I make... So we have this 3... That works. I want this to be 2. Yeah. Okay. So we don't want the extra space to be applied to the end if it's odd and if the number on this side is bigger than the number on this side. So I don't want to use multipliers anymore. It's making things a little complicated for me. So let's just use if statements. So I'm going to go back here. Let's roll the timeline back here. And let's see. That end space we don't always want. If I don't know if I can use formulas inside this line. Let's see if we can. If driver 1 count is driver 2 count. Okay, so that does work. Okay, we don't want to use that, but I just want to make sure it works before I do stuff. So here, I want to determine, so with this, if this is the case, so if both are 3, then I do want this space. So we're basically taking this, subtracting this. So we're taking this out of this space out of the equation when I determine the entire width. When I determine the entire width. But if this isn't there, whoops, this one. If that's not there, then I have this represents the edge of the case, and then we have all this distance that we need to add, instead of just part of this minus this. Okay. So, if driver 1 count is greater than this, then the amount that I want to add is just the what is that distance? So we would have the driver 1 distance minus this. Yeah, so we have this. Is that the end distance? What is the N2 distance again? Plus driver clearance. Okay. So let's use this. Divided by 2. Okay. So we're going to take this. Okay. And instead of this, let's remove that. Okay, so we're just determining the extra space that we would need for the other side. So we would have if driver 1 count, driver 1, count is greater than driver 2 count, then we would want the number to be, let's put 1, 2. Okay, so instead of 1, we will say it'll be that, but we want the handle 1 diameter minus that. Otherwise, why don't we do the end space? What was it before? Multiplier times multiplier. Okay. So let's hope that's the case. Okay, so then okay, so this is how I'm making this more parametric. Thanks for the lurk, Barking Cauldron, I appreciate it. Jet Pinky, thanks for joining us. So this is how I'm making this parametric. Again, we don't want to reference things that might disappear on us. So I'm referencing things that I know will always be there, but then I could duplicate later on. Thanks, Bailey. Thanks for the lurk. So I'm only extruding 1, but the distance here needs to change because of how buggy I've made this. So see this, I'm again doing it times the multiplier. Now instead of doing that, I'm gonna remove that and I'll put an if statement here. So with spacing, I want the width, the default width between this and the first driver, but if the fewer drivers are on this side, I want to add that additional spacing so that it's in the middle, but if it's not, I want to keep it there. So, if driver 1 count is greater than driver 2 count, then for that, let's put that multiplier there. Let's put 0 here. Okay, so if the driver count on this side is greater than the other side, then I want it to be 0. Do I want it to be 0? Oh, I'm excited to see what the pumpkin looks like with the polar filaments. Polar makes some good filament. I feel like I'm missing something here. I don't want it to just be 0 if the driver count is bigger than this, because if this is false, then it's possible that the driver count of each one is the same. So if it's the same and this is bigger, so let's do an and thing here. Does that work? Does and work? And or this is my first time trying to do this. Nope. Can I do that? I don't know. I could probably just put another if in here, but that makes things messy. If driver, no. No. Let me Google this real quick. I'm curious. Autodesk Fusion or operator. Okay. Okay. Or function. Okay, thanks for that. Operators in Fusion. Let's just look at this. Okay. So for... Oh, the OR operator is the back quote. The logical AND is the ampersand. But the logical OR is the back quote. That is interesting. Okay. So... OR. Will that work? It will not. Okay, these are operators, logical OR. There's a bitwise OR, which looks like it's the same. There's a bitwise XOR. Comparison, yeah, that's fine. Conditional. Oh, they have a conditional, okay. This is what I'm looking at, by the way. So I was looking at these, let's see, following table lists all of the user language operators in order of their precedence. Unary having a highest precedence, comma, at the lowest. Okay. So that's interesting. Okay, so I'm looking at this. There's a bitwise OR. There's also a logical OR. Okay. Okay. Conditional operator. So we could use this type thing. but I need to just have just an ore. Hey, Keela's Way, welcome in. I'm trying to keep this as entertaining as possible without getting too far into figuring stuff out. So I might just have to just keep it at that for now. And know that I have to fix it later on. Yeah. Okay. So let's adjust this to see what happens. If it's 3, it's the same amount. 2, 4, you see, so driver 2, that's driver 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, okay. So I think it's working for now. So you're Jet Pinky, I assume you're referring to this right here on the side of my printer. This is the honeycomb board that I printed. I downloaded the files off of Maker Printables. And this riser I got off of MakerWorld. No, so the whole board itself was from MakerWorld, but it didn't originate from MakerWorld. I have printed honeycomb board stuff before I got a bamboo printer, and I got stuff hanging on my wall just behind my monitors here. So that's all honeycomb stuff. Hey Rem, how's it going? Okay. So yeah, so you can see that the rack that I put on top of here, you might be able to see there's drawers there that the AMS sits on top of, and then there's some channels here that you can use to hang up tools and stuff. So I just hung up a bunch of stuff on the side of the printer, so it's pretty nice. Yeah, so it's pretty nice. I have my A1 here. Before I got my X1 Carbon, I had a Neptune 4 Pro from Elegoo right here. And with their printer, there's a default file on there you can print to hang all their tools on the printer. And so all my tools were always over here. When I got the X1 Carbon over there, I was annoyed having to go back and forth to get a tool to do something over here. So that's why I printed that thing. So I feel like these tools are kind of in the middle between all the printers. So, this is a raccoon from Built Over Bot. I scaled it up to 510%, and it can just rest on my shoulder here. I did it earlier. Trust me, I did. It's really adorable. It took almost 2 days to print. It was like, I don't know, 38 hours or something, with it being multicolor. I maximized the build plate on my H2D, so it's cute. Definitely cute. Thanks, Purplish. So, yeah. Back to debugging. So, for those who've just come in, let me just show you what I had previously worked on in the stream to kind of show parametric modeling. So I used this example here where we only have, if you look at the timeline, I only have this action, and this action. And if I go in here, I can say if I want only 5 by 3, or maybe I want 5 by 7, then that just changes the grid around. And the reason why I'm doing this is because Bamboo has this parametric modeling thing that you can use. And they didn't just introduce it, but they're supporting Fusion 360 files or Autodesk Fusion files. So I wanted to see if I could create a truly parametric model for drivers. So I made this for my hex drivers from LDO, but what if someone has drivers that aren't LDO brand, or that has a slightly modification to it, or I don't know, maybe they want it bigger for a bigger driver. I wanted to be able to make it parametric and to determine how many they had to be able to do that. So this is just an example of doing something simple in parametric that you could upload to Make a World and just have this grid thing. I could change the X size to be 60. Oh, not 600. What just happened? I don't even know what just happened. Okay, I don't know what just happened. Yeah, so we can make it taller. We can make it slightly thicker. We can change the spacing so it's only 5 between everything, and it just broke. So I was just using this as an example, but to make something truly parametric is a little bit more, little harder to do, and I'm trying to do that with this driver case. So I was just determining how far over I wanted this fusion. I wanted this handle to be from this edge, because if I have 4 on this side and 3 on this side, or 3 on this side and 4 on this side, obviously the spacing is going to be different on this side if I want them to kind of be interlaced between each other. So that's what I'm dealing with at the moment. There's still something that I want to resolve with this, because if these two are the same amount, then I still want it to be 0, but if they're the same amount, it's going to want to do this. Which I don't want to do, which I think multiplier will still be 0 in that case, so it still might just be fine. Anyway, okay, so from here, now you'll see I chose to do this thing at this point in the timeline because, again, when I want things to be parametric, I don't want to try to reference things that might not exist and cause errors. So before I do any additional extruding with the shafts of anything, I want to add this feature here. Oh my gosh. I wish I could get the Stream Deck thing working on my iPad. So these things right here, these prevent the top of this from rubbing against the drivers when you're opening it. And so that's what I'm adding at the moment. Hey, Nick, welcome in. Yeah, so now we're adding this feature here, and instead of doing just individual prongs, I'm just doing a whole, just a big flat thing, and it's going to be extruded into it. So, now we extrude our, here we go. Okay, so we've got our little finger holders, and I'm doing all this to just one because I don't know how many they want. They're gonna have just at least one. If they want less than one, there's no reason to be printing this because that means they don't have any. So we're starting with just one, and then I do my pattern. And my pattern, you can see the driver 1 count here. So these are driver 1 handles, right? Now let's look back at this. So there's 2 drivers on the other side. So our spacing is incorrect. So with 3 on this side and 2 on this side, we don't want this extra spacing here. We want the space, the distance between this and this to be the same on this side, between this and this. So that's incorrect at the moment. Okay. So if driver 1 is greater than driver 2, then we don't want any additional spacing, actually. This needs to be 0. Okay, there we go. So that's good there. Okay, and now we're starting on this side. Now, this is incorrect. We want this to start right here about. We don't want it to start right here, but we only want it to start right here if the difference between the two driver types is an odd number and this side has more drivers. If this side has more drivers, then I'm going to assume this is wider and that this is correct. So, going in here, we don't want just length spacing there. We want the length spacing plus whatever value there is, but we only want that if driver 1 has more drivers than driver 2. Let's go back to when we did this one. Here we go. So we want a similar formula here, where if driver 1 is greater than driver 2, then we want to do this additional end space. Otherwise 0. So it's going to be a similar formula here. I'm just going to copy this just so I have it. Okay. Let's go back to this side. Plus. Okay, let's just hit enter just so it's longer. Okay. So I'm going to change this. There. Okay, so now it's up. It's not quite there. So we didn't calculate the right amount of distance. We were using driver 1 details, I believe, and we don't want driver 1 details. So again, coming back to this, we want this distance here, which happens to be spacing. So this is our spacing plus the diameter of this minus this little area. So I'm just double checking what our driver 2 end space is. So we're taking our handle 2 diameter minus clearance divided by 2 plus driver clearance. Oh, so the plus driver clearance, that gives us this area here. So we don't want that area, we want this area. So I'm going to use this. So this handle 2 diameter, but we want handle 1 diameter minus driver clearance. So let's see. So we want handle 1 diameter minus this area plus this. So what's this area? Well, this area is the driver 2 diameter minus the clearance divided by 2. Okay. Okay, so if that's bigger than that, so we want that, but we want handle 1 diameter minus that. Okay. There we go. That's in the middle. Hey, 3D Medic Vince. Welcome in. All right. And now let's go to this. Okay, so that's the shaft that it's cutting. I'm doing everything before I do my pattern. Okay, so there's my pattern. Excellent. That's looking better. Oh, there we go. Now we're doing that. Okay. Why is that incorrect? So you notice I didn't do the extrusion of the shaft until just now. I did that on purpose because of this stuff back here. I wanted to make sure that all this was in order before I extruded so I could cut through everything. But it looks like the pattern I chose is incorrect. Optimized. Let's change it from optimized to adjust. There we go. All right. that's looking better. We've resolved a few of the bugs that we've run into. Okay. Okay, so now we're cutting these grooves and we're making it look prettier. Okay, I'm going to save this. Now we're going to see what bugs there are still. So we've adjusted it so that if this side is the number of drivers on this side is greater than the number of drivers on that side, we've adjusted what spacing will be on each of these. But I have my doubts that it's resolved. Okay, so if we do it so both are the same, let's see what happens. It's broken. Okay. So I believe the spacing where this starts, I think that still works, but I think the overall width of this is still broken. So if the driver one count is greater than this, it's 0. Otherwise, it always does this. But this multiplier is 0. If they're the same, so this would come out to be 0, but we want to add an additional. So let's do our driver to end space plus that. Okay, so now these driver shafts are right in between these two handles. Okay, let's see if it's still fixed if we change it back so that this is 2. Whoops. Okay. Alright. So that still works. What if this is bigger than that now? Okay. I think it's working. I think so. Math is hard. Okay, so now we've got 3 drivers on this side, 4 drivers on that side, and then the 3 drivers that are on this side are in the middle. But obviously, if it's 3 and 3, neither one can be in the middle, so they have to be offset. If it's 4 and 3, the 3 on this side are in the middle. Okay, I'm liking that. Now, I'm sure there's probably an easier way of doing this. I'm quite sure there's an easier way of doing this, but this is me meddling through, trying to figure things out, and after I get this done, I'm sure I'll just have an epiphany one night and think, oh, why didn't I just do that? So that's kind of what I've been hoping to do with this, is if they choose whatever drivers they want, then it'll update. Now I'm curious what will happen if I change this to 5. Ah, see, it's still broken. So if it's 5, I still want this to be in the middle. Now, because the difference between the two is an even number, it's still, the multiplier still returns a 0. Which means that this is no longer in the middle. Now there's a problem where I'm not putting any other multipliers in here where, so for example, this, let's see, where does this start? Let's roll back here, roll back here. So where this starts, the math I have, if it mathed correctly, if I did it correctly, it would have only gone to here when it should have gone all the way to here, because there's only 2. So if there's only 2, we would want it to be here and here. But if I thought I had resolved the bugs, it would have only come to here because I didn't have that multiplier of how many different. I'm only checking to see if there is a difference. So, yeah. So it's still broken. But I think I'm just going to call it there and kind of figure this out later. I haven't gone into creating our case yet because that's not important at the moment. I'm just resolving the bugs with all this, making sure all the drivers are spaced exactly where I want them here. So when people, yeah, anyway. Hey Shenanigans, welcome in. Words are harder. That's right, Bailey. Words are harder. That's true. I mean, I could upload this with a stipulation and telling them, like, hey, make sure there's only one difference. But if anything, if I've learned anything from being a software developer, is you want to create something as if the dumbest person in the world is going to use it. Not to say that everyone that's going to use it is dumb. Hey, Erson, sorry I didn't see your message till now. I'm streaming this on YouTube as well. I'm testing it out. He's on YouTube. He or she. Anyway. I'm wondering when they came in. Anyway, I haven't been paying attention. So, I don't want to say that everyone who uses it is going to be a dummy, but you want the goal is to make it intuitive. So it's not that dummies are going to use it, it's that you want to make it intuitive enough to where someone who is not very well educated or well versed in technology will be able to use it and kind of figure it out. So if I have to put stuff in the description saying make sure you don't do this, it's going to turn people off who aren't as knowledgeable about how this stuff works. And I don't want that. So I want to make sure all the bugs are ironed out before I upload this. I want to upload this up to the Maker World using their parametric modeler and see how it works. Because it would be awesome if people could create this case for drivers that aren't LDO. Like, for example, if I were a weirdo and owned 6 of these and I wanted all these in a case, I could get the rough diameter of what this would be and the rough diameter of what this would be, and then measure the length of this and the length of this and put those numbers in, and it would create a case that could hold 6 of them right off the bat. So that's what I want. So that's what I'm working towards. Anyway, I don't know if there will be a Thursday stream. I still need to pack, and I need to figure some things out. You might need 6 of them. I mean, it's nice having 6, because then you don't have to, like, go to the same area every time you need one. Like, if I keep mine stored here in my work area and I need it while I'm in the garage, I have to come all the way upstairs to get it. So if you have one for each room, I mean, maybe you do need 6, but then they wouldn't all be in the case. So maybe, you know, print out 6 cases to keep your 6 your 6 screwdrivers. Oh, nice. That's nice. I've noticed there are quite a few amazing designers out there, me included. I'm not included with the amazing designers, but I've done this too, where we'll upload something and then we'll upload a lot of variations, where we'll be like, oh, here's a variation in case this is the case. Here's a variation in case this is the case. K2 Kevin has a lot of awesome rugged designers, but if you go to his profile, he has tons of profiles of these rugged organizers in various like sizes and dimensions, and if we can parametrically design it so that you only have to upload once and done, someone goes there and says, I want one that's a 3x6, they can just download it. And same with I've seen it with Gridfinity. You go to Gridfinity, there's tons of files of the various different parameters, like, oh, here's a 3x3, and here's a 2x2, and here's a 5x6. And then what if you decide to print just one Gridfinity organizer on an Orange Storm Giga? Is there going to be a big enough one? Do you have to design one yourself? Well, what if on Maker World there was a parametric modeler where you could just say, I want one that's a 20x40, and then you just send it. So anyway, so I think that this parametric modeler is a great idea. I like how it's being executed so far, and if more of us can get behind the bandwagon of trying to make something truly parametric, it would resolve a lot of issues that the public has that don't know how to design. If they want something in specific measurements, they can just put in those measurements and boom, it's done. So with your 4X drivers, you're feeling inadequate. Yeah. Anyway. So I think we're going to call it there. I'm going to do a little bit more work on this. I really don't think this is very fun to watch. Watching me figure out mathematically where things should be, where the bugs are and whatnot. So let's find someone to raid out to. And I might do some streams at 3D Printopia. I don't have a gimbal, so it'll probably be very ugly, shaky, whatever. Who knows? We'll see. But let's see who there is to raid out to. Okay, so we've got Digital Dragon, Build a Builder. Let's see. Does anyone have suggestions before I just up and choose someone to raid out to? Okay. Okay. So I think we'll raid out to Build a Builder. He's working on his mudroom stuff. Will that work? All right. Sorry, Pezliz, we'll do Zach and Rutledge next time. Let's go to Build a Builder and say hi. Thanks again for joining me as I was trying to debug some parametric modeling, and y'all have a good one. Goodbye.